Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, even at the best of times, love in the digital age is, quite frankly, it's complicated as all hell. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in light and conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. Subscribe. Please subscribe. Hit that button. Give us the old 5-star rating. Give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe on your platform of choice, because we're pretty much everywhere. You can find us over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, pretty much all of them. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, while it's still here. And we're on Instagram. But also, we are on the TikTok. And we are over at Letterboxd for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you swing by and read about it and listen about it. So please, pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a real interesting one. Just hit video on demand platforms. Today, it is called Stay the Night. And I mean, it's the story of when, it's a modern story, especially in this day and age, because dating apps and casual hookups are basically the standard when it comes to romance. But for a very single Grace, who's very reserved, played fantastically by our own Andrea Bang, she feels like an outcast in this world. In this world of hookups and apps and swiping left or swiping right or whatever the hell it is. But when she meets Carter, a professional athlete on the outs from his team who has a decision to make, she wonders if maybe Carter is the solution to her problem. And after their first attempt at a one-night stand goes laughably awry, they end up spending the evening walking and talking together through the streets of Toronto. And they make a connection that neither of them ever really expected. This is a sweet, honest, sort of very frank look at love in the digital age and the modern age, and just sort of that connection with people that is even harder to make, which is kind of ironic given how we're all so interconnected these days. But it's true. It's those kind of things out there where we really, we need to stop being afraid of sort of the face to face and sort of getting together with people and just talking and spending time sort of with one another in that space. And screenwriter and director Renuka Jeyapalan, who made this film, did a fantastic job in telling the story. We had the chance to sit down with Renuka and just talk about all these issues and so very much more in an excellent little film, which, like I said, is on video on demand platforms now from our friends over at Photon Films. Like I said, it is called Stay the Night, so go rent it, go buy it. But first, enjoy our talk with Renuka, because between you and me, it's a pretty good one. But I mean, obviously, first off, just thank you so much for the time today, and I mean, congratulations on the movie. I really loved it.
Oh, thank you. It was, thanks for making the time to talk to us. I'm glad you liked it.
Now, I mean, walk me through, I guess, the origin of the story on this, on your end, because I mean, obviously, we've seen sort of similar themed stories before, but I don't think I've ever seen these two characters before.
Yeah, I mean, I first had the idea and wrote the first draft of the script about 11 years ago. And the idea came because I heard a really juicy celebrity story about a young woman who met a very famous person at a Hollywood party. And when she met this person, it was clear in their interaction that this could be a one-night stand. And the first question that went through her head was, can I be that girl? Can I be the girl who has a one-night stand with a movie star? And she looked at who it was and she decided, yes, I can be that person. And she was. Anyway, I like that question. I like the question of, can I be that girl? Or like, and who is that girl? And who is that guy? And then how can we take out all the cliches? Because there is a world where this is just a Hallmark movie.
Right.
And how can we take out all of those cliches, make it as real as possible, but still being, true to the romance or romantic comedy genre. And that's how I kind of came up with Grace and Carter, just tried to make them really dimensional and flawed, and set them out on a journey.
I love it. No, I mean, I guess obviously the next step is casting. I mean, without the right people, this falls apart. So I mean, talk to me about finding Andrea and Joe and sort of knowing that they were the right combination.
Yeah. Yeah, casting is that that weird chemistry that you're like, you cross your fingers that you've hoped you've got it right. But Andrea, I mean, Andrea, I had worked with on a show called Kim's Convenience, a beloved Canadian show. But to be honest, I never ever thought of her for this role when we were first casting. We put a call out for auditions, and her name, she submitted a tape. And when I saw her name on the list of people actors who had submitted, I was like, oh my God, that is so nice of Andrea Bang to like submit to my little tiny movie. But I don't think she's right for this, because I really saw her as Janet, even though I knew how talented she was just with working with her. But then I watched her tape and it was so obvious she was great. She's so amazing. She has so much range and truthfulness as an actor and as a person. And it was just a pleasure to work with her. And then in terms of Joe Scarpellino, who plays Carter Stone, the hockey player character, never heard of him before. Again, he submitted an audition tape, and unlike like a lot of other actors who auditioned for Carter, they really played up the hockey bro, the jock kind of angle. And Joe just kind of brought a vulnerability to it. Like he was kind of, again, really authentic and open. And Carter for me had that, he's kind of broken down when we first meet him in the movie, and it's sort of building him up. And Joe came in, his audition tape had that vulnerability in it, which I really liked. And then, we then, flew them into Toronto to shoot, and they met like the day before we're shooting, and then we're off to the races. So they didn't have any rehearsal time. They only met, less than 24 hours before they're on camera together. And somehow it worked.
Well, I mean, that's wild, just having to find sort of that chemistry in the moment. And I mean, something about the film that I really appreciated is just that, I mean, while it's very much it feels like a Toronto story, it feels like a Canadian story, but it's not something that's hitting us over the head with it. How important was it for you to just have something where these characters are sort of in their own bubble, and it's not sort of about we're not being distracted by what he does for a living or what she does for a living. It's just them in the moment.
This, like you said, it's a Canadian indie. It's a small budget film, and when you have those parameters, your money is your cast and your characters.
Yeah.
So it's like making it personal. Like let's not try to clear NHL and Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's not let's work within what we have, but make it feel like that's what we intended. And so setting it in Toronto, which is my hometown, a place I know very well, and locations that I'm familiar with that I liked, that feel like real Toronto, like that these characters kind of walk through the night. It's just that was really the case. So that's kind of why, there is a world where you have, $100 million and you get to do the big plane and all that kind of stuff. But here it was about the characters. And I think that's what audiences really kind of.
Well, even on Canadian TV, when you get a little bit more money, it still has to be about the characters, because you don't have that much money at the same time, right?
You don't have that much more in Canadian TV, that is for sure. But I think this movie is about those moments between two people. It's about connecting, and that's like, you don't want the bells and whistles around that to take away from it.
Has doing a feature always been sort of in the offing for you? Because I mean, you've got a lot of TV experience, but I mean, this is the first feature by yourself, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Dave, I never wanted to direct television. I still don't want to direct television. I love movies. I'm a big movie buff. Anyone who knows me, even the people I work with in television, know me, that I love movies. I'm always constantly referencing films, old films, new films, every film, foreign films, when I'm working. And I always want to make movies, but I could never make a movie when I was starting out. It's so tough. It's so hard to just get that production funding to then greenlight your film. And so I had to like pivot because, you know, a director should be directing, and I wasn't directing as a filmmaker.
Mm.
So I pivoted to television where I could direct, and I've had so many wonderful, amazing experiences. I had, you know, huge breaks and like these amazing shows that I've got to work on in Canada. But now, like, but really my true love is movies, and I love the cinema.
Now, I mean, I'm curious because does working in TV kind of inform you when you go over to cinema? I mean, especially from an independent standpoint, I've got to imagine just being able to work at a certain pace definitely sort of helps inform that process, because TV is obviously go, 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 go. And I mean, and so is independent cinema, just because you have to be.
Yeah, I think what's you know, with television, especially if you're working with network television, you're beholden to the time. You
Right.
know, you've got to get coverage because, you know, this show has to be 22 minutes, you know. So you got to get coverage, and you're always thinking of the edit when you're shooting TV, because really your control is on the set to do that. Whereas with film, and in TV also, you're like conceptually thinking about, like, is this the show? You're checking all these things. It's not as instinctual, but sometimes it can be. Whereas with film, I feel like it's much more, I'm working on instinct, and I need to untangle all of that, those shot, like the coverage. I don't need all the coverage. I don't need to do the shot design in such a rigorous way. I just need to really focus on the story and these characters and in the moment and that journey. But they are different beasts in some ways. But I mean, for sure, the experience I've had on TV helped to, okay, this shortcut, why don't we just do this? Why don't we, like, okay, looking over here, helped.
For sure, for sure. Now, I mean, something else about your film, which I just found fascinating, is because, I mean, obviously it's going to hit certain beats when it comes to sort of, you know, playing into the romance angle and sort of going down those avenues and exploring that for these characters. But I mean, I think, like you said, it doesn't necessarily go for the Hallmark moment. It keeps it very grounded and very real. For you, how important was it to not put something, I mean, not negative, but not flowery either out there when it comes to sort of relationships? This felt very honest.
Yeah, because, you know, like, I guess, like, sort of romantic comedies kind of have a get dismissed because
Right.
they are like fluffy. Who cares? But I, you know, I was gonna say, like, everyone likes love, like love, you know, everyone wants to have that in their life, and it's a worthy topic for a film. But I also, like, you know, want to make it grounded and real, and, like, I don't know, dating culture, you know, post pandemic, or we're still in the pandemic, but the disconnection that we all feel isolated. There was something worthy about making a film or telling a story about, like, one night and two people connecting in a meaningful way, you know, and flipping that one night stand genre on its head a little bit, because, you know, they connect and they change each other's lives in some ways, but they kind of also just find themselves, which I think is something we're all doing, you know, in our 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s, forever. So,
Well, and I mean that speaks to just how sort of the idea of the one night stand tends to get put down and sort of pushed back. And I mean, I kind of loved that this almost celebrates it, because both characters understand what they're getting into, and it's not a question of one side expects one thing or one side expects the other. It's sort of an understanding and appreciation of the moment, which tends to get lost.
yeah, and I think that, like, you know, in a lot of movies, you know, like Before Sunrise, which is like, everyone loves that movie. It's the hallmark of this kind of one night stand, but it's the kind of central question in Before Sunrise is almost like, are they going to get together? Will they or won't they? And they spend this whole night walking and talking, and then you're trying to, like, get. Whereas in Stay the Night, we kind of eliminate that question quite early on in the
Mm.
film, so that we can then explore character. They are just getting to know each other as friends, and, like, that, you know, the topic of hooking up or sex is kind of off the table, at least temporarily, until they develop some like this connection.
No, for sure. And I mean, it's one of those things that I love it as a representation, just because, again, it's not trying to be flowery. It's not putting on any sort of airs that, you know, the run to the airport's going to end with this big dramatic swooping moment and just, you know,
Although we do have the right to the
You do have
airport,
the
we
run
do
to the
have it.
airport. I will give you that. But
But it's small. It's like what if someone were to run to the airport, what it would look like, kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. No, no, that's exactly it. And I mean, I'm just kind of curious for you as a storyteller and a filmmaker, because I mean, when I see this, I see a lot of different things, and I'm like, I'm curious, what were the movies and what were the influences that made you want to get into this business in the first place?
Into the business.
In
Oh
general,
gosh.
yeah.
Okay, well, a huge question for me, but always liked. I mean, the three that I would say, I'm always loved movies, but the three that I would say when I was like a student and I discovered them, through TV or like movies, um, are Mike Lee, Wong Kar-wai, and Krzysztof Kieslowski. And those three filmmakers, just like, oh, I can see the craft, and I can see I love what they're doing, and I wonder if I can take that and put it into a more accessible commercial world. So that's also, I like David Fincher a lot. I like Billy Wilder. I like William Wyler. I like, Sidney Lumet. So I love Kelly Reichardt. I could go on. I love the Dardenne brothers. So I kind of I'm a fan, and I kind of just get inspired by all of these filmmakers. But those three, Kieslowski, Wong Kar-wai, and Mike Lee are the original three that
No, and I mean, I love that you brought up those three, because I definitely see those three in this film. And I mean, this is one of those things where, I mean, and I'll be honest, I sat down with it and I'm going, okay, it's a rom-com. But I mean,
yeah.
then I watch it, I'm like, wow, this is saying something, and it's got a real message to it. And I mean, I'm kind of curious for you, as it's getting out there into the universe now, what is the hope for audiences to pull away from this story? Because again, while it's got these familiar beats, it's going to take them somewhere maybe they didn't expect.
I think it is that feeling that, I mean, that we kind of have with COVID and everything, feel a little more isolated. We're on Zoom right now, where
For sure.
we never really see people in person as much. Like, what is it like to interact in real life? What is it like to date in real life? But I think it's a return to that. And also, in this film, we took away as much as we could the phone and any technology. So and it's about that. It's about conversations. It's about talking. It's about let's kind of connect in person and in real life. And I think I would love for that to happen more. I'd love for that. It's old fashioned, but I think that's kind of what we're all yearning for. And I think maybe this will reaffirm that for people.
We easily forgot that human interaction is not nearly a scary thing as we think it is now, just thanks to the pandemic and COVID and everything
Yeah.
that's happened. But you're absolutely right, and I definitely think this film reaffirms that, because it's a beautiful thing. And just again, thank you for the time today, and congrats again on the work. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much. I'm glad Julie enjoyed it. Thank you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.